Welcome back to Weird Beautiful Things. If you've been here before, if you have not, welcome. Today's video is about virtual production in Jetset Cine and Unreal Engine. It is essentially a part 2 to a video I made about 6 months ago, which was really a little documentary about my pre-production for a short film I was going to shoot using Jetset Cine. Well, I did shoot that film, but the post-process has been slow for various reasons, mainly because I've got way too many things going on in my life. But today, we are going to walk through the second part of that process, or really the third part. The first part was getting ready, loading up the model, all that stuff that you saw me do in that video. If you haven't watched it, here it is right over here, maybe here, over here, could be there, I don't know. It's somewhere, and you can go watch it, but you should watch this one first. Or maybe you should go watch that one. I don't know. Whatever you want to do. I don't really care. I mean, I care. I care about you. I'm glad you're here. We're going to talk about the process after shooting. So the post-process, which is what I made my living in for a long time. You'd think I would have been able to say that kind of cleanly and evenly, but apparently not. So we're going to talk about the post-process. So I shot the movie, used Jetset Cine and a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 4K camera with a couple of prime, I got the 3 prime lenses. Nothing super long, unfortunately, although I found the Jetset Cine does struggle a little bit with long lenses. I'm not sure if that's kind of inherent in the virtual production process. I am starting to work with a new tracker, the Vive Mars, which is a much more expensive tracker. I haven't had a lot of experience with it yet, so I don't have a lot to report, but I'll let you know. Today's video, however, is about Jetset Cine, the post-production process. On my short film that I shot 6 months ago, based or extracted from William Shakespeare's King Lear. If you haven't figured it out already watching this channel, I am obsessed with Shakespeare. I am obsessed with Shakespeare. Anyway, me Shakespeare. That's my Greek. Yeah, never mind. Anyway, so here we go. What we're going to do first is I'm going to start recording a little bit on the phone because I actually have the project open. And let's go ahead and take a look at that. Let me start recording on my phone so I can quickly show you my screen. Okay, we are recording now. I do have Jetset open. It is important to have it open to the project that you want to use. Now you're looking at my PC. So we're going to go to this software here. This is AutoShot. This is the software that you can download from Lightcraft Pro's website, and it is the accompanying Windows 11 software to go with your Jetset software on your iPhone. So these guys talk to each other. So I've already done a little bit, but you want to make sure first and foremost that it sees the phone. That's why it's important that the phone has the Jetset project open. So with the Jetset project open, and you also want to make sure that you have the, yeah, there we go. The project folder open. You notice it is a project that has the same name as the project on my Jetset. That is important. If you don't have those two things matching in name, you will get errors. So make sure you do that. When you create the project, give it the same name on Jetset as you give it on AutoShot, or vice versa, depending on the order. All right, so the second thing, the Cine source, I am looking at the Blackmagic RAW footage. If you go open that, you will see, there it is, all my Blackmagic RAW footage. And proxies, they're also in there. Which I think it needs, it did before. It's not asking me to define a path for it now. You see, it's actually grayed out and I can't do anything. But this all seems to be working without. So I'm working with a relatively newer version of AutoShot, although not the newest. I did find some issues using the newest one, so I rolled it back a version. So we got some interesting possible compatibility issues, although it does seem to be doing things pretty smoothly. I have run a couple of takes already. We're going to run one here today so you can see how that whole process works, how you get your footage out of the phone and off of your hard drive. If you shot on a hard drive on your Blackmagic or your whatever cinema camera you're using, you can use pretty much anything. And you shoot RAW, I would assume, or something pretty high quality. So you want to get that footage and your tracking information that was recorded on the phone the day of production, the camera movement, to sync up in Unreal. Let's see if we can do that. So the first thing is you need a thing like this. Now, this is called an EDL. I made this out of DaVinci Resolve because I've actually edited this. I have edited this already. I need some water. Hold on. This is a bit of a practice run for my potential live stream. So we'll see how this goes, but I did remember to get a little water. Because when I talk a lot, my mouth gets dry, especially because I'm drinking coffee too. Anyway, this has already been edited, and I created an EDL, an edit decision list, out of DaVinci Resolve. I'm not going to go through that process. However, there is going to be a part 2 to this video that's going to be on another channel of mine called Resolve Mastery. I will put it in the links, maybe on the screen. Who knows? It'll be somewhere, and you can go check that out if you want to see kind of what goes on in the Resolve. Today, this is all about Jetset to Unreal. We're trying to get that taken care of. Okay, so what I want to look for is this file right here. I've already done a little bit of research to kind of prep for this. This file is in my cut. You see this? I basically did a Control F to do find, and I chose one of the files that I know is in the cut. There it is right there. You see how it's highlighted? Now, if I keep hitting this, it'll eventually get me down to the bottom of this list. This portion right here, which was made, this was added to my EDL using AutoShot. So if you're an AutoShot, you can generate a list. Now, we're only going to get a partial list right now because I had some issues where I had to roll this software back, like I said earlier, and it lost a bunch of the matches. But essentially, you go here to Cine, you go to Show Cine Source Matches, and you'll get all those. Now, it's only got the 2 takes that I've currently done. It doesn't have everything because I haven't actually done all this again. We're going to do that right now. So I can show you how it works. But anyway, if I had done all these, I would have gotten all those sources here and I could copy and paste them, and I put them at the end of that EDL. The reason why, so the EDL tells me what files are used in my cut. If we take a look at that, let's head over to the EDL here for a sec. There it is. That's what all this information here is. There are file names and time code. This information in total defines my edit with numbers and letters. So now I can tell you what portion of what files I'm using. So I know that file's in there, and then I also know, remember, if it's at the end, we'll go backwards, that it is take 57 out of AutoShot Jetset. So let's go back over here and see if we can find take 57. So here's all our takes, right here. See, it says take. Oh, my hard drive fell. Luckily, it didn't. I was like, something just fell. It was my hard drive. Well, no harm so far. It's a small, rugged SSD, so don't worry. All right, here we go. So what we're going to do is choose take 57. There it is right there. So does it have a Cine match? No, it doesn't. See where it says Cine footage match? Scan. We're going to have to do that. So let's go ahead and do that. Scan. Now, we're just going to leave it by default like this for now because it'll go much faster. Okay. Something happened. Oh, look at it. It worked. So you'll notice something. A couple fields are populated now. You've basically got the 24 millimeter Cine calibration. That's the calibration that I did on the camera with the 24 millimeter prime lens. And then you've also got a Cine time offset. That's the time difference between the tracking information recorded on the phone and the actual video recorded on the Blackmagic camera. So they're both getting time code. The phone is actually recording the tracking information, I believe, in 30 frames per second, but we were shooting video at 24, so there's a little bit of a wonkiness there. And of course, there's just natural delay going on. So that thing right down there, the number 1.417, that is the offset. I believe it's in frames. It could be seconds. I'm not sure. Anyway, that is the offset that will help us to line our footage back up inside of Unreal. So we do that first, and then we come over here and we do save and run. Now, this is going to take a second because what it's going to do right now is run a transcode of that BRAW file. The whole thing, unfortunately. At this point, I don't know if there's a way to bypass that. I don't really need that, although it is kind of nice because then what it does is it gives me files that are readable inside of Unreal for the video. So it's good in that respect. And we could do keying inside of Unreal, but I actually don't do my key inside of Unreal. I do my key inside of Fusion or DaVinci Resolve, which will be, like I said, part 2 of this video over on Resolve Mastery. So while we're waiting for this transcode, it's already booking along. It's about it's approaching the halfway point, maybe about a third right now. So check out my channel, this one here. This is Weird Beautiful Things, and I do movie reviews on this channel. I've done some vlogs about my choice to transition careers. I left a long, lucrative career in Hollywood post-production to kind of break out on my own, and YouTube is a big part of that. So check those out. I've got some short films that I've made on here because one of the things I'm really trying to get going again is I'm trying to get my filmmaking going again. And this little project we're looking at right now is part of that. So how are we doing here? We're 2,400 frames out of 3716. You can see the countdown at the bottom. So as soon as that's done, it's going to generate a Python script for us that we're going to head over to Unreal and paste it into the command console down at the bottom of the screen. Here, Unreal. Hey, look at my mouse. It's right down here. The console command. That's where we're going to put it. And it's going to create a take. You see it's done a couple already, auto shot. These are the other two takes, take 45 and take 68 that I've already processed. So we're going through and we're processing everything because I did some renders of these before, but there were some issues with them. The main one being that I forgot to turn the autofocus off and I don't want it on. So a bunch of the renders have weird little focus issues that I got to fix. So really that's the biggest issue. So we are going to go through the whole process, though, of how you get this done, as I said. So let's see. Let's find out. Auto shot. Hey, it's done. See down at the bottom now, it says paste into the Unreal Editor console command box. It has made a Python script. Let's see if it works. Come over here into the console command. I believe we are using, by the way, in case you're curious about Unreal, I think it's 532 we're using. Pretty sure that's what it is. I could do, let's see, is it about Unreal Editor? Yes, I was correct. It's 532. So if you're curious about what software I'm using. And also if you want to know what software I'm using on AutoShot, like I said, it is a slightly older version. It's 0.0.162. This software in this company are so new, it's all very beta. So, but it's fun. It's fun to be on the ride with them. So, all right, we're back over here. We're going to, in Unreal, we're going to paste. We're going to do Control V. We paste our script. We hit Enter. And then the magic begins. It's doing something. What's going to happen? Oh, look at that. It just gave us a take. Now, before we open that and take a look at it, there's a couple things I want us to all to do or to understand. You need to save your menu. Mine right now is the main level. I saved that first. Your main level, not menu. Did I say menu? Your main level, your main map. So before you open this thing, do that or you'll have trouble, trust me. And then you can even do a Control-Shift-S and save all. If that happens and you don't have any errors, you did it right. If you forgot to save the main level, you might have an error and you might have to do this process again. You might be able to get it working, but the easiest thing, honestly, is to do it again. So be sure you save your level before you open your sequence that it was just made. So we're going to go down here. This is our take 68, see? And we've got a level sequence now. Let's open that, double click that guy in the sequencer. And let's take a look at the camera cut. Okay, look at that. There's our footage from the day of. There's our actor. But look at what else we've got. We've got our set in front of him. Pretty cool, right? I'm going to show you why. It's because there's actually an image plane. I turned off the camera cut. We're going to rotate around a little bit. There's an image plane tied to a camera. And look at this. The camera moves, the image plane moves with it. All the tracking came over from Unreal. This is a moving shot. Now, if you watch the first video, you might notice this is a different set. It is. For various reasons, we went with a new set. So the set from the first video, if you've watched that one, is no longer the set we're using. This is the one we're using. It's a nicer set. And it can essentially do the same idea. So we've got our camera tracking. We had this thing on a little dolly. And if I look at the camera cut, like I said, you can see those little, they're not turrets. I made that same mistake the last time. I don't know. Anyway, they're there. Now, we're going to turn off the green screen. We just want to kind of see, is it tracking? We'll refine the tracking more when we get into Resolve. I just want to pull this up. So I'm actually going to turn that off. That's why I said I don't really care so much about this. On spawn. There's also another thing that it spawns here, this guy. This is the LiDAR scan of the actual room we were in, which is kind of cool to have, but I don't want that on when I do my render either. So this is now what I'm going to render to go to Fusion. Now, see what's happening with the focus? See how the focus, remember what I said about the focus? We're going to fix that before we send it out. So we're going to do two things before we do this render. The first is I come over here and I get to my camera. Here, look at that. Manual focus distance. That's it. So what happens is with Jetset is it actually tracks the focusing that your phone is trying to do. Obviously, I'm working with a prime lens and I focus it. I don't know that I changed the focus at all the way I was working. I pretty much I focused it on a mark at the end of the move and we landed there. Mark for camera and actor so that I knew it was in focus at that length. So that because I was operating camera by myself, I couldn't really, it was a manual focus. I didn't want to be trying to rack the focus and move the camera on a dolly and do all this other garbage. So anyway, but what we can do before we are completely done, and this is the really nice thing about having this image plane in here. Let's go out to a point, right out here. We're going to focus on the image plane. So we're going to take the camera. So I'm clicking on camera component. Then I come over here and I'm just going to type in focus. There you go. Then my manual focus, I hit this little eyedropper. Then I drop it right on Daniel's face. Boom. That should be much better focus on that. I'm actually going to step out of our camera cut. Looks like this is a little overexposed. Who was the DP on this thing? Oh, that was me. Anyway, I'm focusing on the image plane because the image plane is essentially the closest object you're going to get on this 3D set to where your actor would be. It's a little bit of a cheat because what it's trying to do is basically allow you can create a composite inside of Unreal. We're not going to do that, but you could, and you'd get some depth. As you saw, he's actually behind our image. If we rotate around this, look at it from here, maybe move over a little bit. There we go. So he is actually behind that wall. So if I were to render it out of Unreal, I'd get him behind that. Although I want him actually standing behind this wall right here. He's kind of intersecting the wall, which is okay. But I don't really, I've played around with rendering these things out of Unreal, and I've not had really great success with it. So all I'm going to do with this is I'm going to change the focus, which I did. So I removed all the old keyframes, and then I set the focus basically at the end of the shot, or where he lands once the camera lands, which is here, right? Then we can kind of quickly look at our camera cuts again. We can go to the camera components, and we can try to focus this guy. Looks like this shot's a little out of focus. And it might be. But the plane, we're focusing on the plane, and that's what we really want. So like if we bring it way back here, and we come up here and we do this, yeah, we're focused where we want to be. So I probably have to do some sharpening and then resolve, because it looks like the shot might be a little out of focus. I'll have to look at that. Like I said, this has been edited, but honestly, my son did a lot of the editing. I did not. So I haven't really been too critical about the footage yet. I'm going to have to take a look at it now. All right, so I'm going to show you now the last phase, which is how I would render this. So again, let's unspawn our actor. Nope, wrong thing, sorry. That's not our actor, that is. And we already unspawned the LiDAR. Yeah, our focus looks much better now. So we're nice, got this nice kind of softer focus in the foreground, but our background is nice. Okay, so now we're going to render. So before I do that, I'm going to another Control-Shift-S, save it all. Movie Render Queue. Now, you got to have a bunch of plugins turned on. I think I already went over those in the first video. If not, if you're really interested in that, go check out the Jetset videos. The Lightcraft Pro's got great tutorials. I'm not going to dig too far into all the really technical stuff. I just kind of wanted to show you guys the back part of the second part of this video that I made 6 months ago. And here we are. All right, so I have a configuration which is called my final UHD render. And this is the setting I want to use. We're going to talk about it briefly. Click on it here. So it tells, the first thing it's got an EXR sequence. I've got some deferred rendering. I've got anti-aliasing, camera settings, color output. We're actually not going to use the color output. I'm going to turn that one off. Hey, just turn that off, okay? Console, game overrides, all that. Camera. Yeah, we'll leave all this. All right, so we're going to make an EXR sequence. I do use the DWAB compression. It seems to work fine inside of Resolve, and the files are a little bit smaller. But I do turn on multi-layer, and the reason why is I've actually got this set up. I've got 2 layers. If you look at I've got 1 layer, which is the wall. Because I want the wall to be in front of my actor, so I actually have that separated out as a separate layer in my Unreal Engine project. I'm not going to get too far into how to do that. That's a little bit of a complicated situation, but that's what I've done. If you know how to do that, this is what we're doing now. So in deferred rendering, I have my actor layers turned on, and I have wall as my actor. I also have render main pass, add default layer, and accumulator includes alpha. All those things are important. That will give me a multi-layer EXR file that I can composite with inside of Fusion. Exciting, right? And if you go to the second part of this video over at Resolve Mastery, you'll find out how we do that. But you do need to turn all this on so it renders properly to do that at the end. So let's get that going. I also do, these are my anti-aliasing settings. They're probably a little overkill. This is going to be a long render. So we'll see how it goes. Camera. Console variables. The main one I use is the screen percentage. Gives it a little sharper, higher res looking. And the game overrides. So you can take a look at any of that stuff. These are my settings. Right? I'm going to change this. Actually, that path is good. I'm going to go there. We're going to go right there. Perfect. Okay, so we hit accept. And we're going to start the render, and then I'm going to wrap this up. Render! So it's going to go through, I've got in my render settings, I think some warm-up frames and blah-de-blah-de-blah to get it all up and running at full, get my GPU really cranked up before it really starts rendering. So there's going to go black for a little bit. But anyway, once this is done, I will be taking it into Resolve and continuing this video over at Resolve Mastery. Oh, you can see it's actually cut the wall out right there. That's because it's now a second layer. So cool stuff. Anyway, thanks for watching Weird Beautiful Things. Join me later at Resolve Mastery.